Okay, so we're going to talk about comma rules, and there are four core comma rules to learn that really cover everything that you'd need to know about commas. The first is how to properly punctuate two independent clauses. This is also known as deadly writing sin number 2 if you do the Hamilton College sins. The second one is introductory clauses and phrases, and that deals with dependent clause markers as well. The third has to do with essential and non-essential phrases and clauses. And the fourth one actually has two parts to it. 4A has to do with commas in a list, and 4B has to do with two adjectives that equally describe a noun. So we'll look at all four of those through the course of these videos, but for today we're going to look at rule number 1. So we're going to look at properly punctuating two independent clauses. And sometimes what can be frustrating when you're trying to understand grammar and deal with commas and such is the sort of the language around grammar, and it can feel frustrating and confusing. But I think that that actually is a product of sort of the what is a perceived difficulty about grammar, when in fact the language tends to actually reveal something about what it is that it's referring. And so I think we can actually get past that. And then another thing to think about with grammar is that grammar is the math of English, and by that I mean there are rules to it. And just like how in math you need to learn certain formulas, a squared plus b squared equals c squared, and 2 plus 2 equals 4, and you need to understand that in order to move ahead. You sort of need to apply that same sort of brain to grammatical rules, because they are rules. There isn't anything arbitrary about it. If you follow the rules, you'll get it right, and in some ways that's incredibly burden relieving. So if we look at the description, properly punctuate, that's not even a word there, is it? Properly punctuating two independent clauses. What we need to understand is what an independent clause is. And the word independent gives it away. An independent clause is a sentence. It can stand alone. So for instance, I threw the ball is an independent sentence. You have your subject, you have your verb, you have your predicate, complete sentence. Whereas I think you'd know if you wrote through the ball, you would have an incomplete sentence. You'd have, you're missing your subject. You just have the verb, right? So then the other part that you need to understand about properly punctuating two independent clauses is what a coordinating conjunction is. And once again, we've got this language here that can be frustrating, but if you slow down and just sort of look, you've got the word coordinate, you've got the word junction, and you've got the prefix con, which is actually Latin for with. And so you start to see that all of this language refers to bringing things together. And that's what coordinating conjunctions do. They bring two independent clauses together, or at least they bring clauses together. We'll have to determine if they're independent or not. And there are 7 of them, and there are only 7 of them. So you just need to learn the fanboys. And the idea behind fanboys is to help you remember the 7 coordinating conjunctions. They are for, and, nor, but, or, yet, and so. And that's it. There are only 7 of them. So if you can remember fanboys, for and nor but or yet so, for and nor but or yet so, for and nor but or yet so, and never forget them, then you are about 90% of the way there, because they are the kicker. You need to recognize that there's a coordinating conjunction, and then you apply the rule. And the rule is, if there are 2 independent clauses, one on each side of the coordinating conjunction. Then place a comma before the coordinating conjunction. If one of the clauses is not independent, leave it alone. And that's it. That's the rule. So all you need to do when you see a coordinating conjunction, when you see a fan voice, for and, nor, but, or, yet, so, you stop and you ask yourself, are both sides of the coordinating conjunction independent? And it's generally going to be the right side, the second clause, that will or will not be independent. So for example, I went to the mall and I bought shoes, right? What you see here is your coordinating conjunction, for and, nor, but, or, yet, so. So here you have and so you say, ooh, coordinating conjunction, exciting. And you stop and you ask yourself, are both sides independent? We have, and what you're really asking yourself is, could I take this away and put a period here and have two separate sentences? So I went to the mall, totally could stand alone, makes sense, it's a sentence. I bought shoes, again, subject, verb, object. You're good. So if we put our and back in here, we see that, in fact, there are two independent sentences, one on each side of the coordinating conjunction. And if we look at our rule, if there's one on each side of the coordinating conjunction, then you place a comma before the coordinating conjunction. So there you go. Now if my sentence were, I went to the mall and bought shoes, you see now that I've removed that subject. And in fact, what this verb needs now is way over here. So if I were to take this and out and put a period here, I see clearly that I went to the mall is still a sentence, but bought shoes isn't. You can't just go up to someone and say, bought shoes. That person will think, sort of be like, yeah, what? What are you talking about? So if I go back and I put my and back in, I went to the mall and bought shoes. You can see here that this does not satisfy the first rule. So then it says if one of the clauses is not independent, and there we have this, it cannot stand alone, then you leave the whole sentence alone. And that's the rule. It's very straightforward. The other ways to punctuate an independent clause has to do with semicolons, for which there is another video. So feel free to look at that video for semicolon use. But as pertains to independent clauses and punctuating them with coordinating conjunctions, there you have it.